It'd be funny if it went live. Hey everybody, it's Christy and Eileen from the MKP team here for another Talk It Out Tuesday. I know I'm a little late, but as you can tell, I feel like crap today. So you got to give me some leeway here. Today I wanted to get into abuse because I feel like it's not talked about enough, especially with when it comes to financial and emotional abuse. I feel like we hear a lot about domestic violence and physical abuse, but do we actually talk about the psychological abuse or sexual abuse or emotional? No. So before we get started, I want to make a quick announcement. We are making changes to the MKP website. For anybody who doesn't know what that is, it's mentallykillproject.org. So make sure you check those out. By the end of the week, they should be done because I am putting up all of the resources that I have slowly but surely. I just haven't published it yet. So make sure you check that out by the end of the week. It will be done. Also, what else? If anybody wanted to do an interview, we are still conducting interviews with people who have different mental health conditions and also any medical professionals, advocates, or friends and family members of those who have mental health conditions, just to show an in-depth look at what life is like, not just having these conditions, but also living with people who have them and also treating them. And also because there's no better way to explain what it feels like or what it is like to have a mental health condition than if you have it. So who better to teach us about mental health than those who are mentally ill? So with that being said, we'll get into the different types of abuse first, and then we'll get into a little bit more detail about each one. So the different types of abuse are psychological. Obviously, that has to do with the mind. Also, we have physical. We have sexual, emotional, and financial. So I want to start with physical because I feel like that is the most popular, let's say, unfortunately. A lot of the times, and I don't just mean when I say abuse as far as domestic violence, but that is part of it. And if anybody at any time feels that they may be getting abused, please visit thehotline.org. You can also call 1-800-799-SAFE or text START to 88788. Please do it for you, for your children, for anyone around you, because nobody deserves to be treated like that. So, Eileen, when it comes to physical abuse, what is your opinion on that? Or experience or anything you want to share about it?
For me, that is, it can pertain to any relationship, whether it be romantic or family or even friends. Like, touching or violence, that's like a boundary. And when you cross it, it can be physical abuse. So, yeah, for someone who's, I won't say a victim of it, but like there's a fine line between discipline and then physical abuse when it gets violent to, past that fine line. So there's a distinction. And it's hard to determine when it's coming from someone you love, or it could be a close friend, whether it be family or even in a relationship romantically. So, it's crossing a physical boundary to me, right. Physical abuse.
So a lot of the times what I hear, and this is just my opinion and my perspective, a lot of the times when it comes to abuse, you hear, well, it didn't leave a mark, so it's not abuse. That is not true. It's not. It's one thing to discipline your children, and I have an opinion about that, but that is my opinion. I don't put my hands on my child. But that is also because I grew up with my mom putting her hands on her child. And I didn't want to take that forward to my children because it didn't teach me anything. But we're not here to teach you how to discipline your children. We're just here to encourage you to maybe look at other ways to discipline your children. Putting your hands on your children only encourages them to do the same when they are upset or angry or disappointed in something. So keep that in mind when you're disciplining your children. I know them toddlers are wild, ladies and gentlemen. I know it. But putting your hands on them is not going to teach them anything but to do the same. Children do what we do, not what we say, as I'm sure you guys know. When it comes to older relationships, emotional, physical and romantic is the word I was looking for. Relationships, once is too much. No one should ever put their hands on you in a friendship, relationship, family member, as an adult. If anyone is putting their hands on you, that is abuse, especially if it is continued. Because I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Me and my sister have gotten into a fist fight as adults. We were grown. We're in our 30s. But that's not abuse. That's a fist fight. It's different. Is it okay? No. Abuse is ongoing. Abuse is something where it's a continued physical discipline from somebody who is not supposed to be putting their hands on you. So keep that in mind. Again, you can go to thehotline.org. You can also call 1-800-799-SAFE if you feel that you may be getting abused. Thehotline.org also has an option where if you're afraid it might track your webpage, you can click a button and it will clear all of the cookies out and everything for you so that it won't be in any of your history. It's very private. It will teach you step by step what you need to do to get out of a domestic violence situation. So make sure you check that out if you feel you may be getting abused or someone you know. If someone you know is getting abused and you know it, it is your job, if they can't, to speak for them. That's why I had the episode about speak up. This is one of those circumstances. If your friend's showing up with bruises, she has to leave right away. She keeps bailing out on plans. She's wearing sunglasses a lot to cover things, extra makeup. We notice the signs. Do not stay quiet.
Yeah. And this
you may
also
be you help, Go ahead.
So also not just with adults, if you're like a parent or adult and you're seeing like a kid, again, it's not safe to assume, but it doesn't hurt to like, if you see a kid who's like maybe a bruise, but like if it's continuous, like say you take your child to like a school or like some kids you see regularly and you see them coming abnormal. Again, I don't know who's coming from, but like for me, an outsource could be like a school's social worker or a guidance counselor to report it. Because the social worker, they're there to help in case something happened domestically or even abuse otherwise besides physical. But if you're someone who's wary of like someone you're not intimate with, but like have a relationship with other people's kids or you see them, also speak up because you never know, that kid is just afraid to speak up for themselves and they don't want to report what's going home because they love their parent. Just be mindful of that. It's not just adults.
Yeah, keep in mind that when it comes to children, they only understand the environment they grow up in. Sometimes when things like abuse or pedophilia, things like that happen, sexual abuse, which we'll get into in a minute, they don't know that that's not normal because they don't know anything else other than what they're living in. So sometimes as an outsider, it is our job, if we see something, to say something because it may be the only chance they have.
Right.
So there is a great company that I'll get into at the end. It's one of my favorite brands. It's called No Prince Charming Apparel. They do take a portion of their proceeds to put towards self-defense classes for domestic violence victims. So definitely check them out. I actually designed one of their hoodies. I'm really excited about that.
Nice.
So I've been affiliated with them for a while. Again, if anybody's just jumping in, if you or someone you know may be the victim or you think you may be the victim of domestic violence, please text START to 88788 or go to thehotline.org. It will clear your history for you as soon as you click the button. So no worries about getting into any kind of situation. But next, I want to get into emotional abuse because I feel like this is something that we don't talk about enough. Emotional abuse is when someone ignores your boundaries, they're possessive and controlling, they're hypercritical and judgmental, and they constantly dismiss your feelings. That's where you get a lot of stonewalling, ghosting, the silent treatment. Yes, ladies, the silent treatment is abusive. Stop doing that. You're not punishing anybody but yourself and your partner. So, you can put them in the doghouse. That's fine. That's all you. But the silent treatment is not the adult way to handle our issues. It is never you and your partner versus each other. It's you and your partner versus the problem. And the silent treatment is not solving the problem. So it's important to recognize. Emotional abuse can also come from your family. Family is number one for emotional abuse, believe it or not. Ignoring your child for your phone is abuse. Ignoring your boundaries. Have your parents ever just walked in your room without knocking? That's invading your boundaries, especially when you get to a certain age. Even if you're under 18, 16 to 18, your parents should be knocking, I feel, at your door before they come inside. In case you're undressed, things like that. Sharing a bathroom with a parent over the age, over a certain age. For me, it was 10. Like, no, gross, bro. I don't want to see that, but anybody, you could decide what age for your child is appropriate for them. But for me, over the age of 10, or even less than that, actually, my son's special needs. So, I have to make certain, what's the word I'm looking for? Exemptions, I guess. I don't know. Like, he's a special case. But most children, as soon as they're able to go to the bathroom by themselves, you should not be in the bathroom with them. For me, I feel like showering-wise, over the age of 8 is probably too much, depending on the dynamics, again, because some children are special needs and they do need a little more assistance. But being in the bathroom with your child is not okay. Sharing a bed with your child after a certain age is inappropriate and can lead to what we're getting into next, which is sexual abuse. A lot of children have no idea that they are being sexually abused. And it dials back to what I said earlier. They're a product of their environment. A lot of the times with pedophilia, I've noticed, like I've read some case studies on people who have pedophilia and who have that urge. They don't know any better. They were raised to be being abused. So for them, that's normal behavior and they carry it down. So it says they want to consider that a mental illness because it's treatable. But the problem is it's not treatable after a certain time period. So if they're, let's say middle-aged and they've been involved or in that kind of fetish, let's call it a fetish, I guess, for now. I don't like that. It makes me uncomfortable, but it's not my opinion that matters. What matters is the facts. The facts are, according to case studies, people who suffer from pedophilia cannot be treated after a certain age because it would require too much rewiring, let's say, of the brain to do so. It will require too much therapy, intensive therapy to do so. So when it also comes to sexual abuse, what a lot of people don't realize is if you are in, again, we would dial back to a domestic violence situation. Violence doesn't always have to be someone putting their hands on you. Any of these abuse columns can be handled in a domestic violence situation. They can be seen in a domestic violence situation. Sorry, my brain, I don't feel good today, so my brain is foggy. Sexual abuse can come if you tell your partner no and they force you to have sex anyway. That is abuse. You are not obligated to have sex with your partner whenever they want to. Please keep that in mind, especially for our younger crowd that watches these videos, especially, 15 to 18. I had issues with being sexually abused because I had no idea that I could say no. I didn't know. And it's important for us, if we're parents, to tell our children these things, that no is no.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No is final for anything, including when I say no. The answer is no.
Yeah. So with children, tell them there are certain places where people should not touch, especially adults, and they should report it. Be like, no. And then get them young and learning defense as well. And with the sexual abuse in relationships, if you're not comfortable with something and your partner wants to try it or whatever, say no. If they're still adamant about it, get the fuck out of the relationship.
Yep. So there are non-physical behaviors of sexual abuse. Some of them are showing pornography to a child. That is sexual abuse. Encouraging a child to perform sexual acts, obviously, sexual abuse. Exposing your genitals to a child or having them expose their genitals to you, abuse. Photography of a naked child is abuse. And we're talking about your little baby in a bathtub. We're talking about older than that. For me, after my son was like a year old, no, there's no nudie bathtub pictures. It's not cute anymore. That's just abuse at that point. And it's pornography. We're watching a child use the bathroom after a certain age or undress, and especially without their knowledge. That is abuse. If your child is old enough to dress themselves comfortably, and I think you guys know what I mean by that, if they could get up and get themselves dressed for school, they could get undressed and dress themselves. All you have to do is lay out their outfit or something. You should not be in that room when they're getting changed. It's not appropriate. I have this argument with my son all the time because he likes to run around naked. It's not appropriate. Put some damn clothes on. I don't see that.
Yeah.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, touching on that, like if if you're witnessing or, talking about your children in a sexual way, inappropriate. That's no,
Very.
that is sexual abuse as well. Because then
Right.
when your child hears that and think it's okay with the child, then they're going to expect seeing that's like praise as an older, growing older and maturing. Like, yeah, there's a fine, yeah, you don't do that.
Yeah. So moving away from that, because I don't want this to all be about that, there are other types of abuse. Yes, we are very, very, very adamant about the first couple because those are the most important. But there is also psychological abuse. Psychological abuse is a deliberate use of hurtful words, phrases, and things like that to hurt another person. If they constantly put you down, if they are constantly telling you that nothing you do is good enough, parents are the number one people who use psychological and emotional abuse. And most of the time it is not intentional, but it is important to recognize. When it comes to psychological abuse, and knowing that you'll notice a change in a person around you when they're being psychologically abused. They tend to keep their head down a lot. They have trouble making eye contact. They don't stand up for themselves. And whenever somebody else is like in the room, when that person that is abusing them is in the room, they will be very, very silent. Like more silent than they should be. Low self-esteem is another key indicator. Change of appetite, weight loss, and gain. It can be really hard to distinguish between like depression and abuse sometimes, but understand that sometimes depression is caused by an abuse situation. So either way, speak up and say something. If you want to say something to them first directly, I'm noticing some changes and I'm checking in on you, and they won't answer you or answer any of your questions. That's when it's probably an abuse situation, because with depression, they just be like, I feel like crap. I'll be okay. That's at least my friends, at least when I check in, they're like, yeah, I'm a little depressed, it's the season, but I'm going to be okay. Then you just check in on them a little more, obviously, to make sure they're good. Pop in, drop a care package, something like that. But this kind of situation, you need to step in. You need to say something. For any of these situations, you can call a domestic violence hotline. Please understand, they do not have to physically put their hands on you for you to get help to get out of a situation. So please utilize resources around you to get out of those kinds of situations. If you have a parent that you live with, even if you're over the age of 18, that is constantly using words like that to bring you down, make you feel like crap, yelling all the time, arguing, cursing, things like that, using hurtful words, you need to get out of there. If you're in a bad situation and you can't leave, call the hotline. They will help you out of those situations. So just make sure you're utilizing your resources. She uses her phone. So next, I want to get into financial abuse, because this is something that a lot of people don't talk about. It is mostly prevalent in domestic violence situations, but that is not the only place it is relevant to. I see this a lot with the elderly abuse. But when it comes to financial abuse, this is like withholding money, stealing your money, or restricting the use of your finances. And honestly, it can be seen in any kind of abuse scenario, but I've seen it for the most part in domestic violence, as in women and a man, romantic, and also with elderly abuse. So there's not much really to say about financial other than you can't access money, they're taking your money, or they're withholding money from you as a way to get you to do things. So make sure you're keeping an eye out for those kinds of things. So trying to think of what else I wanted to say. A lot of these abusive situations, when it comes to domestic violence and women, they take a very long time to heal from. That is why there are so many programs for women who have been through domestic violence types of situations, because you carry characteristics of that throughout the rest of your relationships if you don't get help. It's one thing to leave the relationship, and if you have, congratulations, it's a big, big step to leave. That's the first step, is leaving, and that is the hardest. But there's also a process after that you're going to have to go through of healing and rewiring your brain to understand that not everybody is going to abuse you. Not everybody behaves like that, and understanding that you're worth more and not feeling helpless all the time. That feeling of helplessness is probably the hardest to get rid of. to be honest, in my opinion. You feel like you have no control of any situation. So it's hard to take control in any kind of situation after, because you're used to not having any control. Somebody made the decisions for you. You didn't get a say anyway, so you don't speak up. And that's why it's important to pay attention to our friends, family, people around us, to notice the signs of these things. Because if not, they might not get any help. I know you've probably seen it in movies a lot on Lifetime, where they keep going back and they keep going back and they keep going back, because that is a common merry-go-round for abuse. That is what they're used to. That's what they think they deserve. So it's not because they're stupid or because they just don't have any self-confidence. It's because their brain is wired in a traumatic state to stay there. That's what they're comfortable with, because they're afraid to move on. Number one, they may get attacked. That's happened a lot, where women leave domestic violence relationships and end up being attacked after. It's sad, but it is true. But there is help out there. You just have to utilize resources and pay attention to your friends. Because a lot of the times when it comes to domestic violence, I've seen it's the people who are outside of the relationship that step in that help the situation the most. Again, for anybody who's tuning in after, you can text START to 88788 if you think you may be getting abused or someone you know. You can also go to thehotline.org. It will erase the cookies after if you click a button on the website. It is very big and easy to see. It will move your browser into a different mode so that it can't be tracked for your safety. There is also a lot of information on that website that can help you document the signs of abuse, like keeping a journal on what you experienced, writing down statements, recording dates and times, taking pictures of your injuries, and seeking medical care every time you have an injury. It is very important to do so. What is also important is to have a safety plan, not just for you physically, but also for your emotional, also with the family and law enforcement, and all of that is on there. There's guides for each and every kind of scenario that you can think of to help you make an escape plan and a safety plan for, and of course a plan for after, because nobody ever talks about the after.
Yeah.
For digital abuse, you can still document that as well, like over the phone and things like that. Print out your emails or call logs. Make sure you have the sender and the date and time on there for police. That is very important. Make sure you put the times in there. If you don't have anything to do that, you can go to the library or have a friend and loved one do so. You can contact your phone company. They can print those things out for you as well. Screen recording is also a good way to track when it comes to emails and also messages and videos and things like that. Emails can be easily altered. So it's a hit or a miss in court, whether you can use them. It's easier to screen record the email so that you know it's not tempered in any way. Always keep track, though. Also document, especially if it's sexual assault. Go to a Ready clinic. They are free. They will give you a rape kit or a rape test. Any hospital will give you a rape test if necessary. You want to do that to make sure that you put somebody behind bars who's doing that to you. Not just so they don't do that to you again, but so they don't do it to anybody else either. Not that that is anybody else's responsibility, but you want to make sure you document it just in case you need it as well.
Yeah.
And when it comes to documenting abuse, that doesn't just mean the person being abused, it is friends and family as well. If my friend comes over every Friday and every other Friday she's got a black eye, I'm documenting it. Because guess what? Well, first of all, after the first Friday, these hands are buy one, get one free, babe. But I'm not encouraging physical violence. I'm just saying I've seen my sister or friends, and I've seen a lot of people. My sister was one of them in a situation like this before. And thankfully got out of it very quickly. But it was easy to not pay close enough attention to that because I was very young at the time. So for me, I'm like, that's not normal behavior. Because it wasn't like he was physically hitting her. There were other things that were being done that were emotionally and physically abusive that I didn't consider abuse because I didn't know any better. So educating yourself is always important. Yes. Make sure you do so. Again, when it comes to children and physical abuse, it's always a hot topic. It's always a topic for debate. To me, there is no debate. Stop putting your hands on your children. It only encourages them to do the same. So is there anything you want to say, Eileen, about it?
I just want to say, for someone who has been a victim of abuse, it's very tough for the first step to even seek help and speak up about it, because you want to be like, don't pull that facade of being strong and like you can forgive someone, but then if it's repeated, if it's truly repeated, um there's so much help out there. Like, it has advanced since the last decade, since, you know, there is help out there. You just have to seek it and reach out, and you could be taken care of. It's just the first step of seeking help and speaking up about it. And I know that's tough because you're a victim and you're afraid should something come out and your abuser finds out. But there is resources, as Christy had explained earlier. They're out there, and there's many people. If you just reach out, they're willing to help you, because people genuinely want to help you if you are a victim of any sorts of abuse. So the first step is seeking help and speaking up about it, and try not to be strong about it. I know I've never been in a domestic relationship, but for those women who stick by a man's side, at the end of the day, you gotta realize some people are not gonna change until they reflect and see that, okay, oh shit, maybe I should stop. But they truly did love you. But anybody who truly loved you should not ever intentionally hurt you physically. Period. Other abuse, maybe they intentionally did not know what they're doing because they themselves don't have any healing, or that's how they were raised and seeing things, or how things go about. But it's a big thing and a big step, but trust and believe you can recover from it. And you just got to seek help as the biggest first step.
So here's what I have to say about that. Once is too much. Period. The first time that man or woman puts their hands on you, and yes, I said women do it too. Yeah, I know you mostly hear domestic violence relationships that it's a man putting their hands on a woman, but women do it too. Fellas, once is too much. Leave.
Exactly.
Don't fall into, oh, it will never happen again. Once is the key indicator that it will 150% happen again. It can happen a year from now, it could happen 10 years from now. It doesn't matter. Once is too much. If someone puts their hands on you, leave. Period. That's it. It's like, that's it. If someone, also with emotional abuse, stonewalling, ghosting, happens all the time. Don't let them come back. That's submarining. Have you ever had somebody ghost you and now they're still checking your profile and stuff, but they won't answer your messages? That is abuse. It's abuse.
Yes, ghosting is not okay. Here's the thing that I saw a video a long time ago. I had someone mention, like, back then, before phones and cell phones, like someone standing someone up, like that was not okay. Ghosting someone is not okay. If you don't want to talk to anybody, just fucking say it. Don't give that person the notion that something could happen or whatever it is. It is abuse because it fucks with someone, really.
It does. And it affects how they go about their relationships in the future as well. Sorry, Luke's watching a video.
You're fine.
His laugh is so loud. He's cute. It is hard to come back from an abusive relationship. Very hard. And that's something that people don't talk about. Because like I said, it rewires the way you think about yourself and the world around you. So if you know somebody who's been through a domestic violence situation, make sure you're reaching in, because they may not reach out. So that's when that is important. Especially, I mean, for any of our friends in any kind of situation, if your friend isn't reaching out like they normally would, reach in and make sure they're okay. Like Eileen was gone for like 2 days. I was chasing her ass down. Was I texting the wrong phone number? Yes, but that's irrelevant. I was chasing her down. I was like, where'd you go? What happened? You know, sometimes, people get busy and that's fine, but you want to make sure you're checking in on people, noticing the signs if they are around you, and make sure that you are providing information or any kind of assistance that you can to the people who may need it. I am pulling up. I was going to pull up the No Prince Charming thing, but it's not loading for some reason. So I'll just pull it up on my phone because I really love this brand. I'm going to plug it here. This is not a sponsored thing or a paid advertisement. It's just I found this company by accident on Facebook years ago. It popped up and it said No Prince Charming. And for somebody who's grew up as a Disney girl, I was excited. I was like, what's that? And this is their description on their website, which I love. Growing up, it was like we were taught to sit pretty and quiet while Prince Charming swept in to be the hero of the story. Whether it was dad, a brother, or a boyfriend, all our lives we were told that someone else would save us if we ever needed it. But then we grew up. And now we know that in our story, the princess saves herself. So welcome to our sisterhood. We are designed for women who fight, whether that's expectations, toxic relationships, or old versions of ourselves. And 5% of their profits go towards Peace Over Violence, a defense initiative for at-risk women. So make sure you go check out their website as well. I'm going to throw that up real quick at the bottom. There is a Rapunzel hoodie that I designed for them that they are now selling. It's on sale. But they do have a lot of Disney-related merch. Like in the Rapunzel one, it is Rapunzel using her hair to rappel out of the tower.
Love it.
That was cute. And around it, it says, in this story, the princess saves herself. I should have wore it, but it's in the wash, so I'm sorry. But it's definitely, they have like a slipper from Cinderella, and it says shattering glass shoes and glass ceilings and stuff like that. A Beauty and a Beast. It's really about empowering women and teaching them to defend themselves, not just in domestic violence relationships, but all aspects of our lives. So, yeah, I love this brand. Check them out. NoPrinceCharming.com. It's worth the money. And like I said, a portion of the proceeds go towards those self-defense classes for at-risk women, or ladies, if you need free training. These hands are buy one, get one free. And I took 7 years of training, and I'm happy to do so for free. So line on down or into my inbox, and I will teach you how to knock somebody the frig out if you need to. Yeah, just kidding. I'm joking, but I am serious to a degree. If you're in my area and you are in a domestic violence relationship and you need my help, please reach out. I'm not going to post my phone number because there are creeps on my Facebook, but reach out, slide into my inbox, say, I need your help. And that's all you need to say. And I will call you.
Here for your support if you need it. Because not a lot of people have emotional support as well. If you don't know where to turn. So
that's right. But not even emotional support, physically support. Step in, start popping up if you feel that your friend is in a domestic violence relationship. A lot of the times you'll notice they will try to separate them or isolate them from friends and family. So if your friend is in a new relationship and you notice that they are starting to isolate themselves, start popping up. Whether or not they let you in is irrelevant. Start popping up. Let it be known that you are not going to allow it. And you shouldn't. If you love your friend, family member, whatever, that is in that kind of situation, start popping up. Do not be afraid to stand up for them. So I know that's a tough one. A lot of time that comes with backlash. Every time I've said that before, and it's been a lot of backlash, and I don't care.
No.
Pop up.
Exactly.
Pop up. I'm that friend. I will pop up. Like, I'll pop up 3 times a day. Don't play with me. Beep, beep. I'm outside again. What's up? Okay, so, yeah, check out Leo Prince Charming. Make sure if you need, there is a number that you can text that is confidential that will help. That is start to 88788 if you think that you or someone you know may be the victim of abuse, whether that be psychological, physical, sexual, emotional, or financial. With that being said, that's all I have for today. Eileen, if you had anything to add, I'll give you the opportunity.
No closing thoughts, but looking forward to doing this with you again next week. And yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to end this with the calendar in the background for you guys, and we'll see you next week.